Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this university debate on human rights. This debate is brought to you by the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. My name is Nkumba Gabriel. We have already seen what team has progressed to the final, and that is Gulu University. In the debate we're going to have right now, we find out which team joins Gulu University in the final. Let me invite Uganda Christian University. Uganda Christian University will be versing Nkumba University. Welcome to this semi-final. Before you take your seats, let's toss the coin and find out what side of the argument each of you will be making. Heads or tails? Heads. It is heads. What side of the argument? Proposition. Please take your seats. Take your seats over here. The proposers and opposers have taken their seats, and today their duty is to try and convince you at home, to convince the audience seated here in the Wizards Media Auditorium, but most importantly, to convince the judges that they deserve the higher marks than the other team. So let's go to the judges and find out what they will be looking for in the debate today.
Thank you, moderator. Most welcome, debaters. The judges today are going to be looking at your ability to follow the guidelines, your original arguments, how articulate you are, your expressions, your tone, your eye contact, your body language. These are all very important. We expect your ideas to be clear and well articulated. We want to hear sophisticated and quality arguments. They should be easy to follow and persuasive. We would like to hear how well you address the topic, so stick to the topic. And use current issues, give clear examples, offer insights, and engage the audience as much as possible. So I wish you good debating.
All right, thank you very much, our judges. If you could just introduce yourselves, I'll start with the lady at the extreme end.
Good morning, debaters. You're most welcome. My name is Deborah Oyela.
I'm Sandra Mweseja.
And Eric Kasiri.
There you are. You know our judges for the day, and now I will come to the contestants. I will start with the first proposer.
I'm Eunice Aruo Akidi from Uganda Christian University.
And I'm Samogere Patrick from Uganda Christian University.
All right. And then I'll go to the opposers.
I'm Julius Kato from Nkumba University.
I'm Namata Pauline from Nkumba University.
Our debaters, welcome. And everybody that's watching us, welcome to this show. The principle of state sovereignty is a principle of international law. And states like Uganda provide for state sovereignty in their constitutions. In fact, the preamble of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda emphasizes that Uganda is a sovereign state. International law assumes that a sovereign state is neither dependent nor subject to any state or power. Yet events, as seen in Iraq, Libya, and elsewhere in the world, challenge this notion. Alliances, blocs, invitations from nations also make many wonder what state sovereignty is in the current day. So today, we debate. State sovereignty is guaranteed by international law and should not be abused in any circumstance. We will go to the first proposer.
Thank you. I'd love to, since he has already defined what sovereignty is, I'd love to bring to your knowledge to understand very well what international law is. And international law is a legal system that governs states and international bodies. However, international law is derived from it is controlled by the United Nations. And the United Nations derives its power from the UN Charter. And in this case, where the states, where international law is able to enforce that the rights are not abused in any circumstance, there's the Security Council that is given under Article 23 of the United Nations Charter, which gives that if rights are abused, they shall take measures under the effectiveness of the what? Of the UN. But also, furthermore, the United Nations and the international law does not just come from nowhere. It has its sources, and the sources are derived under Article 38 of the ICJ statute. And those sources are international conventions, their customs, their judicial decisions, and the writers themselves. So the sovereign states do not just come from nowhere. They also base on the sources, and every state has a custom. Now, I'd love to come to the motion that state sovereignty is guaranteed by international law and should not be abused under any circumstances. We can see the recent examples, and under extradition, under international law, the sovereign states are able to bring in extradition process. Extradition is where a court applies for steps to be taken by the outside courts in case a criminal is outside the jurisdiction of the country. So under here, we saw the recent example of Jamil Mukulu. He was a suspect, not yet confirmed whether it was really true. He was suspected and he was convicted on crimes against humanities. Uganda had to apply to the outside state where he was for him to be tried under Uganda, under our courts of law. So in that case, you see that international law guarantees the sovereignty of a state. And people cannot just abuse the rights of the people that are granted to them. So under that, the Security Council also brings in more measures that are taken in for the rights to be respected. And that is under Article 39 of the UN Charter.
Your time is up. Let's go to the first opposing debater. Your argument.
Thank you, the moderator. I believe that the topic was clear, stated. State sovereignty is granted by international law and should not be abused under any circumstance. I believe what we are seeing, it is not what really the nations agreed upon. We are seeing nations, international countries, coming in all wars which are happening around Africa. So we are asking ourselves, if there is sovereignty, how comes that these nations are part in such quarrels and conflicts of other states? Libya, look at Libya. Libya up to now, it would be a great nation in Africa, but because of interest of US and other countries, they have tried to terminate sovereignty in a way that they are using it in their interest. Therefore, I believe that really we are not following sovereignty, but we are just following people's interest and other nations' interest. Otherwise, we need to embark on this, and we draft the way how we can at least seek some help from other countries to ensure that we can easily develop, because we have failed to manage our resources. Therefore, meaning that instead of saying that we are independent, let us at least agree that we are not independent. This is just a subterfuge, a government within a government.
Is that the end of your argument?
Yes.
Okay, you have a chance to ask the first proposing speaker a question.
Madam, you articulated more a bit when I heard what you started with. I thought that you have joined our seats, but really you concluded very. Anyway, my point is, if you are saying that countries are independent, really, is Uganda independent? We are seeing schools.
Oh no, is that your question? Is
Yes.
Uganda independent?
Is Uganda
All right.
independent?
Yes, Uganda is independent.
And show it in example.
He's saying prove that Uganda is independent.
Okay. Uganda is independent. You see, I know why you've asked that is because when other countries come in, but we need help. Uganda is a signatory of UN. So the UN has a right to come in to help in any situation. So Uganda is independent. And it got its independence in 1962. That's
All right,
it.
you still have time. Do you have a second question?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Actually, you have seen US, you have seen China, we have seen so many foreigners flowing away from their countries coming in. So we are trying even to hope that even in the next generation, we are seeing Europe shifting to Africa.
I hope
So if you are trying to tell me that Uganda is
I
independent.
hope you're getting to a question.
Yes, I'm getting to the question. If you are saying that Uganda is independent, then I'm doubting how comes that resources are flowing away from Africa to those nations.
How come resources are flowing away from Africa? Is that your question? You know, you overtalked. So what I can say on that, how come resources are flowing away from Africa? It's just that we are not developed enough. And that comes with time. We are growing. Uganda is a developing country. We are not developed enough, so other countries need to come in to help us. Actually, they depend on us so much. But the moment we get developed, as in they will not have to come
All
and
right,
get the resources.
the time is up. It's your turn to ask a
Yes,
question.
I'd love to ask you. You gave in an example of Libya. How do you think if the outside states, the UN, other bodies had it coming, how do you think it would have solved its issue? People's rights were abused. They didn't have a right to express their own. How do you think they would have expressed them?
Okay, thank you, madam. Really, in a home, a father knows how to handle his home. There is no way how your stepfather can come in and solve the problem of your father. Therefore, Libya had way of how they can come up and to exhaust all issues which we are trying to be violated by others.
Do you have another question?
Yes, but you yourself, didn't you see they had failed to solve it?
Really, Libya was at the great because even a child at Libya at 18 already is well off. The government is providing all what they need. And how comes that now, if we are looking at Libya, it is not on map?
So would you love to support that? You are very happy when one person is in power and they are gaining, and for you are never progressing.
Actually, if you are seeing at things concerning about independence, they really kill a lot. Because when you are doing things alone and you are not involving other parties, you will not know what skills other people have so that you can fully achieve to your best. Therefore, the
All right,
involvement.
your time is up. We will go to the second proposing speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'll start with the issue of Libya, being that we delved so much into it. Now, I do appreciate that the people on the negative side do agree that a state can solve its own issues. Now, that is why international law comes in to make sure this sovereignty is actually enforced. And that's why, like he believes, I do believe that this sovereignty should not be done away with, irrespective of the circumstances. Now, just getting into the aspects of security, as one of these as to why state sovereignty should be guaranteed and should not be abused under circumstances. As we gave an example of Libya, I'll start with Libya. When international organizations like NATO came in for the case of Libya, as he said, there's been a lot of insurgency in Libya, and as he said, if they had handled these issues on their own, meaning as a sovereign state, perhaps they would have solved it in a better way without perhaps the death of a great president. Because I do believe, I don't know about anyone in here, but I do believe Muammar Gaddafi was a great president. A man who can actually put a man-made river in every single district in a country bigger than Rwanda or Uganda is a great president, I do believe. Now, another reason as to why I believe state sovereignty shouldn't be done away with respect of the circumstances is the issue of it being being part and parcel of a state. Ladies and gentlemen, elements of a state do involve sovereignty. Now, a state ceases to be a state if it's actually not sovereign. A state ceases to be a state if it can't actually make its own decisions. That's why it shouldn't be done away with irrespective of the circumstances. The last element that I actually look at are interstate relations. Whenever states go ahead to interfere with the matters of other states, the diplomatic coherence between the two states actually does disappear. Let's give an example. A number of the Libyans who are actually okay with NATO coming in are now the same Libyans complaining that their state is at war, that they're in insurgency, their GDP and their economy dropped by far. Right now, a Libyan man won't look at an American so well. Right now, someone from Libya won't look at someone from the UK so well because they interfered into the affairs of their state. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how diplomatic coherency is killed. Let's give an example of the issue in Syria. Right now, this year, around September, I was reading, around September. Now, this I got from the UN Rapporteur on the issues of the UN Security Council. And there was a disagreement amongst the members of the Security Council. Now, you know Russia is actually part of the Security Council, but it was being blamed for interfering in the issues of Syria. In doing this, lives were lost. Innocent children were lost. Ladies and gentlemen, why I draw my yardstick as a Ugandan, as an African, as a member of this world is when it comes to human life. When it gets to human life and people actually dying, then I believe we need to take a step back. And it's for those reasons as to why I believe state sovereignty should be preserved, irrespective of any frontiers. Now, it does extend to the embassies, our ambassadors, and so on.
Your time is up.
Okay,
all right. Thank you very much. We'll hear from the second opposing debater.
Thank you, moderator. I want to make a point on why we don't need sovereignty, why we don't need independence of the states, by the fact that when you look at the protection which will be granted, for the population, in this way, what do I mean? If we have a connection with other states, if we move out from Uganda to any other country, we shall have protection in those states. The next is that government will have control of each other. The governments will have control of each other's. Look at this. When we talk about the nuclear bombs, if at all we don't come in with other states to convey with them, they will do what they want. They make nuclear bombs, which will affect all the states in the country.
In the world, you meant?
In the world. Another thing is that we shall be able to know the norms and ideas. Basically, when we look at all the states, we shall get how they really do their norms, how they pursue ideas from different sectors, and we really come to see that we develop the countries at large. The next is territories. Here, the territories will be protected so well by the fact that we are dealing with all the states. We are in touch with all the states. The territories will be protected. Each state will make sure that Libya is really protected, Uganda is really protected, such that we can make a conversion of the conversion. We make a conversion of all the people within the world. Next is...
All right, your time is done. You have a chance to ask a question of the second proposer.
My dear, what makes you believe that a country can work without other states interfering in?
Thank you. What makes me believe that actually a state can work without other countries interfering in is where we are, the status quo, ladies and gentlemen. Most all the states, if I'm not mistaken, actually are sovereign. Now we should learn to put a difference or to put a mark between trade, international relations, and then interference. When I trade with you, when I relate with you, that's not interference, ladies and gentlemen. We should learn to differentiate between the two. Now I believe states are independent. They're just trading and relating.
All right, do you have another question? Because you still have time. Okay, she doesn't have a question. Do you have a question for her?
Yes, I do have a question. Now, my question is, if you do believe that states should actually not be sovereign, then why do you put the governments? Because if they actually cease to be sovereign, they actually cease to become states. Perhaps we'll have one globe with one president and one government. After all, without sovereignty, they do cease to become states.
So what's your question?
My question is, if she believes states should not be sovereign, then why relate in terms of governance?
All right.
Thank you. I think
You can pass the question to your colleague.
Okay, I can help her. When you look at all what is taking place, we are in a global village. However much you are arguing, however much you are denying, but we are in a global village. Even when we are differentiating in the languages, color, but we are in a global village. God created a man and a woman.
All right. Do you have another question?
Yes, actually, I do have another question. This actually goes back to the whole idea of insecurity and the human rights. If you actually do say that non-interference does cause for the abuse of human rights, then why do we put the interference that has given us ISIL, that has given us Al-Qaeda, that has given us Al-Shabaab? Because I do believe these mutant groups were empowered and given military artillery through state interference.
Okay, let me try to answer that very well. When you look at terrorism, the reason why terrorism is all over the country, it is because of independence. People are looking that if at all of us we were born, all of us were created in the image of God. This earth, all of us, we are worthy to get whatever it is on earth. Therefore, we should endeavor not to put boundaries all over the country that this is my land, this I own this. Where will you go with this? We are going all to leave everything on earth. Therefore, we should.
All right. All right. State sovereignty in its purest form assumes that every state is neither dependent nor subject to any other state. What happens in the case where there are visible human rights abuses in a state that is sovereign? Should the rest of the states just watch and allow those abuses to continue?
Thank you. Now, what happens when a state is sovereign and the human rights abuses? What happens is what the East African community, for example, is trying to do for Burundi. What happens, for example, is what the East African community is trying to do for Southern Sudan. You do negotiate and then solve these issues. Let's just compare and contrast what
We're
the
speaking about
EAC
sovereignty here. The sovereign state says, no, don't come. We will solve our problem.
Yes.
Don't come. Don't even bother.
Yes. Now, in that regard, we still do have right channels. Under the UN Charter, there is the Security Council that can actually take decisions and make better measures on how to actually engage these people minus attacking them. I want to submit in relation, just before you interrupted me, I wanted to relate what the EAC is doing in South Sudan and what NATO did in Libya. Let's look at South Sudan, let's look at Burundi, and let's look at Libya and see where all the three stand. Libya is in insurgency. Burundi, though, there are actually constraints and instability, perhaps people don't agree. But when you compare the two, one is actually better off.
Okay.
I would love to add
All right.
something on that.
Yes.
We have instances also where we can use force to get in, and they're also in the ICJ statute. And this is in case you want to have self-defense, a body is allowed to come in and use force to defend the people of the country.
Okay.
Yes.
Recent examples do not back your argument, because when you look at the case of Libya, it is worse off than it was before it was invaded. And therefore, the argument is states can actually deal with their issues, because when Libya was dealing with its issues, it seemed to be okay.
Okay, moderator, I can try to answer you like this. When you look at the issue of Libya, Libya was very well when there are no wars. But the wars emerged because of the subterfuge in Libya, a government within a government. Libya itself, it tried to embed, tried to tell their colleagues, they are trying to tell them about certain issues which are not favoring the rights of the people. So people started rioting, and if US, it is there and it has everything to take protection over the people of Libya, then how can US sit back, watch people dying, they are on screen crying, and it is there sitting? We cannot help that. Therefore, it was good and it was essential for all states to engage in each and everything, because all the world, it is in a global village.
Our judges, you have heard the arguments from both sides. You have a decision to make. Please make your decision and let us know who's carried the day.
Wow. Thank you so much, the debaters. This was one of the complex topics that we've had today, but we are happy to see that you've debated it well, and we are impressed. So we are going to come up with a decision. However, before I can make some comments from the table, the winning team, yes, had good examples which are current, and mentioned a few, made some recommendations, and also they also mentioned some law books, which was one of the issues that we are targeting. And they had good teamwork. They were ready to compete. Of course, it was shown in the way they were articulate, and also good communication. The losing team was let down by the colleague who was not very confident and kept shaking on the floor, and also they were not so topical. They didn't give us enough examples, and so we felt that we are not convinced. So we came up with a decision that we shall let UCU proceed to the finals.
Any other comments from the judges? Yes, please.
As usual, I just top up a bit. We were talking about state sovereignty and relating with other states. Under the UN, we have what we call the universal peer review process. In other words, all other countries in the world review every country, every periodic, maybe 5 years, depending on how they agree. Uganda was reviewed recently. So they review your human rights situation, and every country will tell you what you have to do. They send back those recommendations. You sit as a country with all your government departments, you sit with your civil society, discuss the recommendations. There are those that the government can accept, and there are those that they don't take. You come up with working groups, and then you agree on what you're going to work on to improve, so that the next time you're reviewed, as a member state, you have accountability. So you may not want to be invaded, or maybe someone to walk into your business, but this one, as a member state of the UN, you have to be reviewed, especially the human rights process. And we also have the African one, or let me say the regional one, which is the African peer review. We are also reviewed by other African states. So if there's a problem, it will also come out with strong recommendations, and if they say another state should support you, you certainly will be supported. In other words, you need to work with other states, much as they recognize you as a state and they respect your constitution. But also you have to agree to be part of that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Would like to thank you for keeping with this university debate on human rights. We now know who the finalists are, but would like to thank Nkumba University for their participation. Would like to thank UCU and congratulate them for joining Gulu University in the final. Our next debate is the final. Make sure you catch it. God bless you.